Welcome to the next episode of In the Kitchen at Savory Jack's. Today we're going to be making a really fun cake that, I've made on a few movies, but we're going to focus on a movie I did with Will Ferrell called Step Brothers. And there's a really funny scene where this cake is featured prominently in the movie, and we have a little clip we're going to show you in just a second. But it's based on a German chocolate cake recipe, and I'm actually using white chocolate today. So what you need to do is, first of all, is get all your dry ingredients together. I've sifted 2½ cups of regular flour with a teaspoon of baking soda and a ½ teaspoon of salt. So I put those through a sifter. So now we need to get our butter going. So it is a ½ pound of butter, or 2 sticks. We want to leave everything out and let it get nice and soft and get room temperature so it'll all blend together. So there's 1 stick. And of course I can't get this one open to do the next one. And 2 sticks. So we're gonna let that blend for just a moment till it gets nice and creamy. And then we're gonna add in 1 3/4 cups of sugar. So the reason why we're doing this, we like to blend the sugar into with the fat so that when we add it to the flour, it's all pre-done and pre-mixed. So we're gonna add in our sugar with our butter. We're gonna let that stir for just a second until it gets nice and fluffy. So this movie, Step Brothers, was, I think, the 4th out of 5 Will Ferrell movies that I've done. I worked on Old School, which was my first one with him, which I made a cake that flew through the air. Blades of Glory, I made some biscuits that they threw at each other. Land of the Lost, I made a giant breast of turkey, which we stuck in a fake lobster claw, which was the giant lobster that got boiled in Land of the Lost that he ate, and he broke that one too. Anchorman, we did a lot of funny stuff in that. It was the first time in my life I'd ever had to make a cat poop salad. I don't know if you remember in the movie, but when everybody hates him, he goes to his favorite restaurant and they make him eat a cat poop salad. Of course, it wasn't real cat poop, but it looked a lot like cat poop. So our butter and sugar is starting to blend over here, so we're gonna take our spatula and we're gonna make sure we got it all mixed in good, scraping the sides, and then we'll scrape our spatula off. We're gonna turn this back on. There's 4 eggs in the recipe, so you want to separate those. Get your egg yolks separated from the egg whites. And you want to add these slowly. You want to add like 1 at a time. Give it time to blend in. You want the fats in the yolk to ease themselves into the fats in the butter. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. What was I telling you? I was talking about Anchorman. Funny movie. There's several food scenes in Anchorman, and one of my favorite ones is in a restaurant where they're eating chocolate fondue. And I actually made chocolate fondue for Starsky and Hutch, which is another movie Will Ferrell had a small part in it, and he wasn't even credited for it. So actually that makes 6 Will Ferrell movies that I've had the pleasure of working on. So let me just scrape the sides again. Get our butter sugar mixture all ready here. This is a great cake recipe for not only making cakes, but it also makes great cupcakes. And if any of you guys have been in Savory Jack's when we served them, it's a white chocolate, German chocolate cupcake that everybody loves. So you can make cupcakes with this as well, and it does really well as a cake and as a cupcake. Okay, our eggs are done. At this point, there's a funny little thing that we do. We're gonna melt, 4 ounces of white chocolate into a cup of water. So we're gonna get that on the oven. This is kind of what it looks like before you get started. It's just little white chocolate drops floating around in a cup of water. But we're gonna melt this. Takes just a second. You know what? This might be a nice time to have a word from our sponsor. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for lightning-fast, dependable data service? Look no further than PES Energize. If you have slow internet at home or at work, PES Energize can offer high-speed, quality solutions. Take a look at Murray Chevrolet and Anchor IT Solutions. Both are satisfied customers. PES Energize can sign you up for lightning-fast internet or a broad lineup of great TV packages. Pick up the phone or stop by today to join the PES Energize family. Don't suffer with slow internet any longer. Call PES Energize.
Yeah, welcome back. We have dissolved our white chocolate in a cup of water. You want to make sure that it's not still boiling when you put it in there. You want to let it cool for just a second, and you're going to gently add the white chocolate to our butter mixture. I know this recipe sounds complicated, but it's really pretty darn easy, and it's fun to do too. So there we go. We have sort of eased it into our white chocolate mix. Let's see, I think I need to scrape the sides on this a little bit, get it all mixed in there together. Yeah, there we go. And don't be afraid when you see that this loosens up quite a bit when you add the liquid into the butter mixture. It gets pretty liquefied. So, and that's a good thing. Makes it easier when you're going to mix it in with the flour. So, you just give that another little quick swirl. Alrighty. Yeah. If you don't like white chocolate, a lot of people don't like white chocolate. This is actually a German chocolate recipe that I changed around a bit. So feel free to use dark chocolate, whatever kind of chocolate you like in this, because it all works just the same. All right. So now we're going to take our flour mixture and our butter mixture. And here we have I think it's a cup and a half. Oh, I'll have to go look that up and come back. Cup and a half of buttermilk and a tablespoon of vanilla. And we're going to alternate these into the flour. So we're going to do it in thirds. So we're going to guess about a third of that and about a third of that. You could use your blender if you want to, but at this part it's just as easy to use a simple whisk. Get our flour mixture going here. Ooh, and try not to mess it out all over the cutting board. All right, we're going to add another third. And another third. So if you remember a while ago, we used 4 egg yolks. So when you separate your eggs, make sure you save the egg whites because we're going to blend those in just a second. And that's kind of a fun process if you've never done it before. The secret to egg whites is to make sure you don't get any egg yolks in the whites. And then also make sure your bowl is completely dry and your whisk is completely dry because if there's any water on it. Last third and our last third of our chocolate, egg, sugar, butter mix into here. So I have to say it's been a lot of fun for all of you guys that are watching the show kind of on a regular basis. That when you see me out in town, please don't hesitate to say hi. I've had a lot of little kids come up and say, "You're that weird guy on TV that cooks." So anyway, it's been a lot of fun. I think this is number 7 for us that we've been doing since we started this series. And I've worked on 90 feature films, so I think we've got quite a bit of material ahead of us that we've yet to see. All right, so now we have our eggs, our flour, and our buttermilk and vanilla. All right, I'm gonna go wash the bowl, wash the mix, and we're gonna be right back.
You destroyed my boat. You beat me up in your sleep. And worst of all, you made Nancy and I resent each other. It is absolutely 150% your fault.
Welcome back. Didn't take long. Had to wash my own stuff. You may have noticed I don't have my trusty sidekick today, Matt. Someone played out in the sun too much without any sunscreen and got a little sun poisoning. So he had to miss our episode today. So these were the 4 egg whites that I saved from cutting from when we were starting with the 4 eggs at the very beginning, the 4 egg yolks. And I just wanted to say, I think I made a mistake earlier. It is 1 cup of buttermilk and 1 teaspoon of vanilla that you pre-mix and you set aside and let you get that up to room temperature when you start. So there's a little secret to starting your egg whites. Dry bowl, dry everything, no yellows in it, all white, and a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. I don't really know what this does, but it does something. It's kind of a little stabilizer. So we put that in and we turn it on. All right, we've been letting our egg whites whip now for a couple of minutes, and they're almost ready. You want to make sure they do hold a firm peak, because we're going to fold them in. It's a nice, what this does with the cake, it just gives it a nice fluffy homemade reality of not being store-bought. So anyway, ooh. All right, and we're ready. Whoops, they could have gone a little bit longer, but ooh. So we're gonna fold these in a little bit at a time here. Get my whisk out of there. Where is that assistant? I need help around here. So, all right, so we're starting to, let me move that so you can see. The egg whites, just want to fold them in, get them nice. You don't want to over mix anything at this time. You want to take your time and be gentle with it. Let's get the rest of our egg whites into there. All right, and again, you can see how it's just a nice soft fold into the batter. Yeah. All right. I will tell you that there were a couple of times, on more than 3 or 4 times, when I was working with Will Ferrell on the set. They improv so much that there's like 100 takes, so you have to be ready to do things 100 times. We had made the cake the first time, and it had been sitting on the set. We shot, I think, this scene for 2 days, and Will had some friends that came in to visit, and someone from props, when they were redressing the set, had picked up the cake on the cake stand and walked it back to my little work area, and I had it sitting, not necessarily featured on the table, but it was like right at the end of the table, and Will Ferrell walked by with some friends of his that were visiting, and they went, "Oh, what a lovely cake." And Will said, "Do you want some?" And they said yes. So he walked over and cut like 2/3 of the cake off the thing. And we only had one cake, and it had to match what was gone before, and it was kind of a hectic thing. But when Will wanted to eat, he got to eat. But it was very funny because we panically had to fix the cake. We had to run and take the cake away from them as they were walking away with it and patch it back together on the cake stand. So anyway, all right, we have gently whipped, and you can still see little streaks of the egg whites in the batter there. All right, so we're gonna take a second. We're gonna clean up. We're gonna get our cake pans together, and then I'm gonna show you how to spray and dust a cake pan before it goes into the oven so that your cake pops out without any problems. Be right back. Okay, we're back. I found my cake pans. I found 3 7-inch cake pans, and a little spray non-stick, and some flour. So what you want to do is you just want to lightly spray around the pan. Make sure you get all the edges and the bottom really good. And then we're going to dust them with just a little bit of flour. Just pour a little flour in, and you just shake it around. The flour will stick to the spray release. Roll it around on the edges so that you get the edges really good. And then what I do is I like to share the flour so you don't waste too much. And again, number 2. And you can see we're rolling it around here on the edges to get the edges nice and lightly coated. And again, you want to tap off the excess. Just tap it off into the other pan there, if I can get my fingers out of it. And then our last one may need just a tad bit more flour for it. And while you've been making this, hopefully you have preheated your oven at about 365 degrees. If you have convection oven, make sure you cook this on a low fan and not on a high fan, because it'll go off to one side, and then it's not very pretty when that happens. Okay, I think we've got our... All right, now that our things are dusted, we're going to fill these up at about I used to make really thick cakes, and then I would cut them to make layered cakes, and I discovered it's much easier if you just bake 3 thinner cakes, and then you don't have to worry about cutting them, because I never could cut them very even. Okay, and I think, oops, number 1 needs a little bit more. And we just kind of try to eyeball them. All right, we're going to gently just tap them around so that they even out around the cake pan. So I like to be safe. And I'm sure most of you don't have an industrial size oven, but cleaning an industrial size oven is never a lot of fun. So when I'm baking, I always make sure me and everyone that works here puts a little plate underneath them. And now we're going to put our cakes into our 360-degree oven for about 30-35 minutes, or until a straw comes out clean. Ooh. And while the cakes are baking, we're going to start our icing, but we're going to get everything ready. We'll be back in just a second. And we're back. Our cakes are in the oven, and we're going to start our icing, which is your basic coconut and pecan icing for a German chocolate cake. So the basic setup for this is really easy. You just kind of put everything in your saucepan. This is a cup of sugar, a cup of evaporated milk, 3 egg yolks, and a half a pound of butter. And so what you want to do is, you can use a whisk to start with while it's cold. If you melt the butter beforehand, it makes it a lot easier, which is what we did. We melted the butter and then we added everything in. You want to get the egg yolks just to get a nice blend of everything. Now the secret to cooking or to making an icing or anything that has an egg yolk base to it is that you have to constantly stir it while it's cooking. Because if you don't stir it while it's cooking, you're going to have buttered scrambled eggs with a lot of sugar on them. So we're going to put this on the oven on low heat, and we're going to let it come to a, it doesn't really come to a boil, but what will happen is on the edges of the pot, it'll start to bubble. So, and steam will come up, and that's when you know you've had it, gotten it to the right heat. And you need to keep it at that heat for about 3 to 5 minutes so that the eggs cook and everything cooks inside, so that it's going to become like a candied gel when it comes back. So this may take a few moments, so we're going to take a little time thing here, and we'll be right back when it's hot enough to add our coconut and our pecans. Okay, so this took about 4 or 5 minutes for us to do, and if you can see, it's nice and steaming, and we don't have scrambled eggs with butter and sugar. So it's nice and thick. So at this point, we can add in our coconut. It's 1.5 cups of sweet coconut. And when you measure coconut, a lot of people don't realize you need to pack it in just a little bit, because it's a very light and flaky thing. You don't want to pack it too hard, because then you'll end up with too much. And then we have 1.5 cups of chopped pecans. So I don't toast mine. A lot of people like to toast them before they make this, but I just like them like they are. So now we want to stir this in. We want to get it nice, and now we want to bring it back up just a little bit. So we're going to turn the heat back on and put all of this back together. This process just kind of makes sure that the coconut and the nuts pick up the flavors of the sugars and everything. It's not really about cooking, but once again, we need to keep stirring and let this get warm. So one of the things you might realize when you make this, this is going to be pretty loose, and it's probably a little too loose to actually decorate your cake with. But if you put it in the refrigerator, I mean, this will keep up to 5 or 6 days in the refrigerator, so you can make the icing way early before you make your cake. But if you put it in the refrigerator, it's going to be kind of like a candy. So you can warm it up a bit again before you try to ice with it, because if it's ice cold, it'll be way too hard to. So now we've got our bubble thing going again, we've got our steam going again, so our icing is complete. And we need to let this sit for a second and let our cakes finish. And then when we come back, we'll start decorating. See you in a minute. To help our icing cool off a bit, I took it out of the hot pan and put it into a nice mixing bowl. So it's cooled now enough, and you can see it's a lot thicker and it's very workable. Our cakes, we let them bake. Our cakes bake and cool. And now, hopefully, it's always embarrassing when you try to teach somebody how to do something and then it doesn't work. All right. It should come out now. I feel movement. I think we'll take just a little bit of a break while I figure out what happened here. Okay, so what we need to do is heat the bottom of it a little bit so it will release. And there, we have a perfect cake. And I made thin cakes so that we can go right onto our cake board. We're going to ice the top one first. Yeah. The traditional German chocolate cakes don't ice the sides, but I like to ice the sides too. So I have a nice little flat spatula and spread that around. If you bake a lot, you might want to invest in these little cake things. They're about $15, $18 at the cake store or the supply store. And they sure do make it easy. All right, layer number one. Now we can try this again. Aha. And cake number two, perfectly on top there. And again, spread. Get the top all nice and even. And then, whoops, get them centered. And it looks like they grew just a tad bit. And I hope I made enough icing to go around this cake. And you want to start at the bottom and work your way up the sides. Okay, so this may take just a minute. So while I finish decorating, you guys can hang out for just a second and maybe we'll do a little TV magic and come right back. But then we'll have to cut us a piece and see how it tastes. So we'll be back in just a second. Okay, we have finished decorating our cake and we've gone all the way around the edges with it, and now the fun part's going to be transferring it from the cake stand onto the cake stand. So as I said before, this is probably the one the cake was on in the movie, but I have three of these because we had three different setups at one time after the first nightmare with the only one cake. So, but I do have those. They were given to me as a gift. And I should have made my cake a little, I only had the right size cake, and there we go. Of course, not any good if you don't get it all over your hands. All right, have we centered it? Now, get a knife. Let's see, about right there. Ooh. Of course, I did only make a 2-layer. The one in the movie is a 3-layer, but we're gonna come very close to having a replica of the cake from the movie. And thank you, whoever's hands those were. Oops. Oh. There you have it. All we're missing is Will Ferrell and what's his name? All right, join us next time. We're going to have some more fun. We're going to hopefully get to do some fish for you that I did in a couple of big films and cook them 2 different ways, one in each movie. And so join us next time here at the kitchen at Savory Jack's. Hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you soon.